Well, hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton, and we come together with you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, it's election time, and you can't believe a thing you hear. I'm amazed at what is going on out there in the public. One of the best things that you can teach your children is to channel hop. Okay, don't always listen to the same news. In fact, I'd encourage you to play a game with your kids where you take one news story a night and then follow it on like 4 different channels, make Fox one of them, and then maybe CNN or ABC or one of those, and then compare the stories and compare them to social media and see what is truth. On top of it, I don't know about you, but I have had it with COVID isolation. Now, I feel bad for the people that have had COVID. I do. My own, we had a death in our family from COVID, and so it is very serious business. But I am sick and tired of those masks and ready to burn them, quite frankly. I just want to breathe. I want to go into a store and just breathe, you know? Well, now Netflix is trying to convince all of us that it's normal for an 11-year-old kid to do erotic sex acts on global media. Hello. What is going on? We're going to talk about cuties. Yes, cuties. If you haven't heard about it, you better. And now Sacramento politicians have decided that the age of consent for sex is 14. And if you have a partner that's 10 years older, well, that's not pedophilia, is it? What can we do? Shall we cancel our Netflix account? Do you burn your Teen Vogue magazine? I kind of hope so, quite frankly. We did a whole show on that about 2 years ago. It's crazy. I'm going to suggest to you that you read the bills before you vote. Isn't that a novel idea? This thing of supporting politicians that tell you they're going to write bills that you have to vote for them to find out what's in them, you got a problem, and I'd have a real problem voting for that politician. And most important, have honest conversation with your children, and that includes the sex talk. If your kid is too young to have the sex talk, they are too young for the phone. So what on earth am I talking about? Well, I'll tell you what, my job has gotten harder and harder and harder. Now, I'm not complaining, I'm sharing, okay? This is my decision to take this on. I started about 12 years ago. As I said, my name is Opal Singleton. I am the president and CEO of Million Kids. That is spelled MILLION, millionkids.org. I had one listener that told me if I'd quit using my Cajun accent, he could understand it and I wouldn't have to spell it. Well, I don't mean to have an accent, and I'm not Cajun, but it is Million Kids, not a million kids, not 1 million kids, just simply Million Kids. And we are a local nonprofit organization right here in Riverside area. We serve all the Inland Empire. Quite frankly, I go across the United States because I am a law enforcement trainer for human trafficking, sextortion, social media exploitation, and child pornography. And we have been combating this long before anybody knew how to spell trafficking, and that the human trafficking has a K in it. I bet a lot of people don't know that. Well, I've seen a lot in my 12 years of combating this. And I was young when I started. I was newly retired, and I look in the mirror today and I think, oh my, I hope it's been worth it. But we have reached a fork in the road. If this set of events that have happened in the last 30 days have not brought you to a place of looking at your conscience and thinking your thoughts about what kind of value system is important to you and important to your children, then I can't ever imagine a time in history that has been more important than we are right now. As many of you know, I wrote a book called Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. By the way, I appreciate it very much if you would order that. And just go to millionkids.org and order that book, and I'll sign it for you and send it out to you. But I wrote about the fact that we're in a historic time, and we are in a historic time. okay? More so than at any other time ever in history. We are at the most unique time. In fact, I cannot think of a more important time in all of history for you to be a parent. And not just any parent, but a parent who decides that you are going to raise kids, not just to be happy kids, but to raise kids who have values, who have character, who understand the hard decisions and will take the high road, who will decide that they are going to be leaders for all future generations as they are connected to the entire world. You see, I've said it many times. If you're a normal follower, you will hear it, but maybe you will share it. This year will be the year that the entire world is connected by internet. Unless COVID slows it down, then it'll be next year. And it isn't just the fact that the entire world has come together. This generation of kids will be the first generation that the entire world can reach them, and they can reach the entire world. And with that, that means you're going to have a huge amount of people that are trying to talk to your children about sexuality, morality, spirituality, and things that were the holy grail for a parent. Whether or not your child needs a sex change operation, whether or not that it's okay for your child to be twerking out there around the world and sending out videos. There is much to discuss, but to do that, we need parents with different attitudes. It is not enough to raise happy kids. I can tell you, it's a fascinating thing. Prior to the COVID thing, I would go into schools and I would train kids. I've trained over 400,000 people eye to eye. And I praise God for that opportunity to do that. What a strange place he put this old lady in, okay? But I talked and they listened. And we have had so many cases that have come out of schools. When you talk to kids about how not to be violated on the internet, they will come up to you and say, my gosh, I wish I'd known you a month ago. I'm worried for my 10-year-old sister. My mom lets her do anything on TikTok. Can they get that naked photo I sent on Snapchat? I'm going to tell you that kids are good kids for the most part, and they want to be leaders. But when I stand before a room full of 500 kids, I can tell you almost to a T which ones of those kids have moms and dads who are involved in their lives. Guys who give them structure, grandmas and grandpas that set high standards and make them want to become something with their lives. I can look across the audience and I can tell which ones are being violated often. I can tell which ones whose parents are in a divorce. And they're those poor kids that are in that tug of war every weekend about which home they're going to be able to call home and which set of rules they're going to have to live by. I can tell which kids have value systems that say, I'm proud of who I am and what I stand for, that understand that every time I do what's right instead of what's easy, I have character. When I put other people's needs above myself, then I'm a stronger person and I'm a better leader. And then I can see the ones that don't have a lot of structure, that don't have a lot of parenting. Their little shorts are so short that half their little body parts are hanging out the bottom of them, and they're over here adjusting their little halter top at a table with 5 guys. And they can tell exactly what they're doing. They've got their headsets on and they're twerking. And they think that it's funny to emulate sex acts publicly. I can tell you which kids are more likely to become victims of sextortion because they're willing to take that chance out there. They believe they're invincible. They think it's all right to sell naked photos on Snapchat and get a little Snap Cash where you monetize a selfie. I can look out in the audience and find and look at kids and say, these kids are much more likely to become victims of sextortion and social media exploitation. The difference between how this works and not is raising kids with character. And the way you raise kids with character is you have a strategy, you have a plan, you understand social media, you are an educated parent, and you decide that your kids are going to learn from you how to be that example. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is called Exploited Crimes and Technology. Please share it with everyone you know. We are up against that break, so stay with us. We're going to be right back. I appreciate each and every one of you that listen and share this show. Be right back.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Hey, there are many good restaurants in the Inland Empire, but really great restaurants are hard to find. Let me tell you about the Toasted Barrel in Corona. It's a trendy, upscale steakhouse with great pasta and seafood. It's a fantastic choice for birthdays and anniversaries or just that special night out with your loved one and friends. Inland Empire magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant and Brunch for the past 3 years. The owners, Ed and Shirley, are friendly and attentive to your needs. If you're a prime rib connoisseur, this place is for you. Go ahead and try it out. The Toasted Barrel, located at 1300 El Sobrante Road in Corona. Or Google them at Toasted Barrel to make reservations. I guarantee you, you're going to love it. Be sure and tell Ed and Shirley that Opal sent you. It will be a night you'll never forget.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and I'm really on a tear today, but these are hard times, and when the things get tough, the tough got to get going, and I need you, Mom and Dad, to be one of those. What set all this off? Well, it's that cuties controversy that is going on out there that really just was like the icing on my proverbial cake that I've been struggling with all week. We already had a wave of things coming through with all of these new laws that I talked about last week, and I'm going to talk about them again today. But first, after we went through that, where basically they've lowered the age of consent for sex to 14, and you know, it's okay if the partner's within 10 years of age. And then it's up to a judge whether or not it's pedophilia or just one of those lovable, normal relationships you have between a 14-year-old and a 24-year-old. By the way, I'll come back to it in a minute, but it's really to level the playing field so that it covers all kinds of sex, including non-vaginal. We'll just keep it as clean as we can. We're on the air here. But along with all of those law changes came this movie called Cuties. Now, I'm not a wuss, okay? I serve as the training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. I've been combating sex crimes for 12 years now in my nonprofit world. And first of all, let me just take a time out to say thank you to each and every one of you that have helped support this and make this happen. I was just a retired person who said, this is not acceptable and we're going to take it on. And it's been one crazy, crazy journey. But we're reaching a level that is just difficult for me. And that has to do with the fact I really believe that it's a combination of the fact that we have an election year and then we have kind of an onslaught of Hollywood and Netflix and people like that telling us what is acceptable. For me, it kind of started at the halftime Super Bowl a year ago when J-Lo, and J-Lo's a very talented lady, a beautiful lady, very exceptionally talented. But she could have done that halftime show without all the twerking and emulating the sex acts. The problem with that is not that she shouldn't be doing it. She's an adult. But there are teenagers and preteens all over the world watching that. And basically, we were calling it twerking at that point. It's emulating a sex act. And I'm going to use a new term I learned, and I'm not going to use it regularly, but it's called dry humping. I had to look up that. I'm like, holy cow, I'm too old for those words anyway. But, when you see 11-year-olds in a movie doing that over and over and over, I can no longer pretend to be somebody's grandma off saying that isn't really happening. We better find out what they're calling it so we recognize it when we hear our kids talking. Because what is happening in Cuties is this movie is put out by Netflix. It's a French movie, so they didn't have to declare it to be, pedophilia, but it is nothing more than pedophilia, and it is absolutely getting attention everywhere you go. Now, you're asking me, what can you do about it? Well, there's a movement on here. I've got to find it, but it's called hashtag cancel Netflix, I think it is. I'll find it here for you in a minute. But let me tell you about this. I saw excerpts of it. Now, when I first started getting, calls and inquiries from my followers, and they keep me, really up to date, our supporters and the people involved with this Million Kids organization. And I appreciate you. And they're all looking at me going, Opal, what are we going to do? Well, you can cancel your Netflix, and it's Netflix is probably going to be one of the people that carry our film next year when it comes out, and that is going to be a film about how the internet is made and how you can use it for good, but also how you protect yourself against it. But Netflix is one of the biggest out there, and it is really a concern to me right now, the power of all of these companies. I have been saying this for a long time, that when your child goes on social media, that you better have the sex talk with them before. And if they're too young for it, don't put them on social media. Either that, or you need to sit down and explain to your child, because if you don't, what good sex is and what illicit sex is, sex that is damaging, sex that is degrading, sex that is humiliating, and sex that will change your opinion of yourself and others. We are putting our kids out there as they're going through puberty, prior to puberty in Cuties, and we're not allowing anybody to define for us, my apologies there, not allowing anyone to define for our children what good sex ought to be. that it's between caring adults. It is not a weapon. It is not something that you use to become famous. It is not a game you play out there loosely. And so what I am saying is that it is time for us to sit down and look at cuties on the YouTube so that you can see what's in there. I was going to recommend a couple of them, but they are full of filthy language. But if you're not a wuss and you want to see how bad this is, people were telling me over and over and over, Opal, this is bad. And I go, I see bad all the time. Folks, this is bad. I am not old enough to see what's in that movie, and you aren't either. But I'm going to ask you to go on YouTube and just look at some of the excerpts. You might even keep the sound down on it because people that are reviewing it really have filthy language. But what you're seeing is that it's a story. First of all, I'm surprised that there are not protests by the Muslim community, because it's the story of a Muslim girl who is 11. And I've written down her name here, but I have so much show prep, it doesn't really matter. But she's 11, and, they're trying to put the parents are trying to put their religious faith and values on this girl. And in the meantime, she meets a couple of girls, and she decides to go into this kind of dance contest, and the girls show her what to do. And it's like a juxtaposition. As moral as Muslims are, what they teach her is as immoral, in my opinion. And in the course of that, this thing gets absolutely raunchy. It is full of 11-year-olds dry humping, okay? It is full of 11-year-olds doing emulated sex acts, holding absolutely nothing back. Now, do you understand the dichotomy here? Do you understand the challenge of having a radio show just to talk about it? Because this is a family show, so I can't really explain it to you because it is that bad. And yet I want you to get that your 11-year-old is going to think this is the coolest thing they've ever seen. And if we don't stop and have that conversation, who's going to? Well, a lot of people have started canceling their Netflix. And I was looking up the numbers here of how big this is to give you an idea of who is running our world. And by the way, it is, I really hope you'll step back, especially since it's election season. I saw something this last week, and this is completely off the subject, but I really want to throw it in. And that is that I happened to see a news report. I saw it on Fox News first, and it was about something that Trump had said. And it sounded perfectly rational. It sounded like an appropriate thing for them to say. And I saw the exact same story on the local, I believe it was ABC News. And in the course of relaying the same set of facts, they went on to say that President Trump suffered major humiliation today as he announced da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I thought to myself, that's an opinion. That's not a fact. The news release I saw on the other channels showed no humiliation, showed no embarrassment, showed pride in their accomplishment. And the reason I tell you that is that in election time, every one of these people are trying to lie to you in many ways and form your opinions. But they are also doing that to your children about what is healthy sex and what is not. Well, I looked at this. At the end of June, Netflix had a total of 193 million paid streaming customers. And as they went in and started this Cancellation Act, they won't tell us exactly how many canceled, but they did go in and say that it was extreme and that was much greater than normal. I'll get you the number at break. But you are making a difference by canceling your Netflix subscription on this. They need to understand that if they are going to show pornography, that it is not going to be done in a way that sounds absolutely the reverse of what it is. They are saying that it's just generalizing sexuality of children. We are up against that break, so I'm going to be right with you. Stay with us. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590. The Answer. Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we are talking about the movie Cuties. Netflix cancellation rate in the U.S. jumped to nearly 8 times higher than the average daily levels since August of 2020, reaching a multi-year high. And it's saying that by going to hashtag cancel Netflix is how they are urging people to do that. It was interesting also reading the responses to the public as they've gone in on so many of these. And I really wanted to read a couple of them. I thought that was interesting because they are trying to post this as a conservative issue. It's really disappointing in here because we're really to a point, according to one of these articles, and I thought it was an interesting comment, that the new publications decry conservative Republicans for making an uproar over a movie that has so clearly crossed the line with children. This movie is allowed to remain unedited. A dangerous precedent will be set for future artistic endeavors or societal experiments. It's okay to have these scenes because why? If we draw the line for our children's safety and the children who are have no one watching out for them. The person that posted these comments are really, I think, show depth of character because they're absolutely right. You know, 2 years ago, I did an article here on the radio show, and it was hard to do because it was about Teen Vogue magazine that basically had a diagram and it promoted backside sex. And it basically said right on there that you're still a virgin and you won't get pregnant. So it is okay, and it is not really sex. And that started like 3 years ago. And this is a slippery slope because what they're doing here, first of all, in my opinion, if I were Muslim, I would be very upset. I mean, look at what we're seeing under Black Lives Matter. And here they have a story of this Muslim girl. In fact, I have the information right here. She's 11, and they basically are telling her that she should not be listening to the Muslim family oppressive traditions. And in fact, she should find herself by being able to go out there. And they put preteens and other sexual situations. Where this really hit bottom for me is that Amy takes a picture of her genitals and posts the photo on social media and claiming that's okay. I'm not making this up, folks. This is on Netflix, on your TV. It's worldwide, and I want to make you aware of it. So where does this go, and what do we do? Well, we didn't get here by accident. We got here when, first of all, we allowed social media to censor us as we have opinions they don't agree with. And now it's in full swing. That if, many of the conservative people who are posting out there, and this is not a political show. I'm not here to get you to be Republican or Democrat. What I am here for is I want you to see a trend. That social media is determining what we and our children see, and they are positioning it. And so is the nightly news, just like I talked about. This generation will have more information than any generation before them, but they will have less truth. And that is because other people like Netflix are determining for you and your family what is appropriate. And if you object, they basically call you a prude. And I'm going to tell you that it is time to take back your household. I'm going to say that loud and clear. This is the toughest time in the whole world to be a parent. But I have never known a time in all of history where it is more important that not that our kids be happy, not that our kids have the latest pair of Nikes, not that our kids have just, they always win, but that our kids have character. Sit down and talk about cuties with kids. Talk to them about what they post on social media. Because the minute that's posted on TikTok, and believe me, if it's on cuties, it's being emulated on TikTok. The minute it's posted on TikTok, what will happen is somebody will contact them and say, let's meet on Instagram and get me more of those videos. You are really hot. And that is really where it begins. So I think that we cannot put our head in the sand. There is no place left to hide. We all don't want to be political. I know on myself, it's hard to go even to a dinner party. You don't dare say anything because of all the outrageous nature out there. But quite frankly, I'm proud to watch some people fight back on this. To say enough already, let's have common decency. Let's teach our children that they don't emulate sex acts. What on earth do you think that a 7-year-old thinks she's doing when she's dry humping? Why does she? And trust me, that is not a dirty word. Your child will know that word before you do. And I've thought long and hard before I use it in general public. But your kids are doing it and your grandkids are doing it. And so we need to be able to say this is happening. The reason why this is so important is up till now, we fought sex trafficking by law, but the laws are changing, as I said last week, and they're changing not to our favor. Dress codes are changing. Have you been on a high school parking lot or a high school campus? Can't come up with the big word, 5 letters. Huh? Anyway, CAM, 6 letters. Anyway, it's crazy out there. And now we've got a new law that says condoms are not probable cause in a search warrant. And we just changed the mandated reporting law so that if a kid is having sex between ages of 14 and 17, and they say it's consensual, then that's okay. Do you realize that many of our kids, I had 3 cases this week, 3, of 14 to 15-year-old girls that have pimps that are 18 to 22, and they're beating them up, they're raping them, they're putting them out in hotels in Pomona or over there on Baseline or out in Moreno Valley, and they are setting them up for sex. And then when the police move in, the girl goes, oh, no, it was just something I wanted to do. I know, he's my boyfriend. I'm just helping him out here. He's about to get a job. And so how do you make a sex trafficking case with these kinds of laws if that is happening? On top about it, they are reclassifying sex offenders at Proposition SB 384. They're reclassifying sex offenders out there. So they're changing the mandated reporting. They're reclassifying sex offense laws so that maybe you don't, first of all, you have 24, I think it's 2 weeks or something like that. No, 24 months that they can think it over before they come up with a classification. And then they can reclassify you so you're not so bad. And you can get out there and continue to function in our society. They changed the age of consent for sex, and they changed the breadth of it. So that if you're 14 years old and her 22-year-old boyfriend decides to have one of those non-normal sex acts that you and I think of, that it's still okay if she says it's okay, and he is not a sex offender. So Cuties is basically showing you pedophilia and telling you all the time that you're a prude for calling it pedophilia and for being offended by it. And in the meantime, you have the folks up on Sacramento, Capitol Hill, that is voting in all these laws and that's saying, well, it's not pedophilia. We're just leveling the playing field for the LGBTQ community. Thank you. That would be Scott Wiener. We are coming up to an election, folks. I am not for politics. I don't care which side you're voting on. I'm not here one way or the other. But I am going to ask you to think like parents when you vote, or think like grandparents when you vote, and take a look at who's supporting these organizations. I was appalled to find out that Harry and Meghan are big people with Netflix, that Obama's, both of them, big people with Netflix. Now, I'm not totally innocent because I'm coming out with a movie next year, and I hope that Netflix will carry it because they have the audience. But what I want you to hear is we have a voice and we need to use it. And I'm using my Netflix voice to be able to explain to kids where naked photos go when they hit send on the internet. That there are good ways to use technology and there are bad ways to use technology. And when you use technology in a bad way, you are going to pay a price. And when you or your little brother or sister are online and you're doing all of this sexual stuff, it will change your perception of a sexual relationship and it will change who you are as a person. Folks, this is all about raising kids with character, and that starts with parental leadership. This is Opal Singleton. I'll be right back.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sellers and buyers recognize that these low interest rates will not last. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Hey, there are many good restaurants in the Inland Empire, but really great restaurants are hard to find. Let me tell you about the Toasted Barrel in Corona. It's a trendy, upscale steakhouse with great pasta and seafood. It's a fantastic choice for birthdays and anniversaries or just that special night out with your loved one and friends. Inland Empire magazine has awarded them Best Restaurant and Brunch for the past 3 years. The owners, Ed and Shirley, are friendly and attentive to your needs. If you're a prime rib connoisseur, this place is for you. Go ahead and try it out. The Toasted Barrel, located at 1300 El Sobrante Road in Corona. Or Google them at Toasted Barrel to make reservations. I guarantee you're going to love it. Be sure and tell Ed and Shirley that Opal sent you. It will be a night you'll never forget.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back. This is Opal Singleton, Exploited Crimes and Technology. I do want to take a minute out. I know I get a little rabid here, but this is serious, serious business. It is. Our kids are at stake, our grandkids, their future. Our society as a society is at stake. You know, we have all these protests that people are equal and need to be treated equal, but where are the protests that they are literally sexualizing our children and changing the morals of our society? Where are the protests for that? So I appreciate each and every one of you that support this work. If you're willing to do that, please go to millionkids.org and hit that donate button. You can write to me at opal, O-P-A-L, at millionkids.org, or you can get the address on there and mail a check in. I'd appreciate it. Now, several of you that have contacted me want to know my opinion of Proposition 20 on the ballot. Now, I'm not here to tell you to vote one way or the other, but I do want to give you a little background about Proposition 20 because I think so many of us have forgotten what that's really all about. Back in 2016, we had a vote that went out to the general public, as opposed to so many of these that we never get an opinion on and never get to vote. But that one did. And I believe that particular proposition was misrepresented, and it passed. And I think that if people had seen the real vote and the real proposition, that it would not have passed. But that's called politics for you. Politics is a blood sport. It is not, your Sunday school education. There is a lot unfair that goes on in politics, and there's a whole lot of dishonesty in politics on both sides for what it's worth. But Proposition 57 represented that there are, thousands of people in prison, and they are. California is way over their maximum in prisons, okay? Way over it. And that is true. And that tells you that we've had strong law enforcement. And I hope to heck they don't defund law enforcement, because it is law enforcement that literally keep your kids safe from predators. And we need to think long and hard before we start taking those dollars away, because those cases are hard. And I myself work with the Riverside County Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force. The sheriff department in Riverside County and San Bernardino County are fine people. The district attorneys, they are fighting an uphill battle. They really are, as these laws change. How on earth do we make cases and protect kids who maybe don't even want to be protected? Some of the cases I've had this week is they won't listen. They won't come home. They've been picked up out in Pomona for turning tricks, and, they can't. What do they do? And the laws really limit that capability, even though there's a vast amount of resources available. If the kid will not accept them, then now that's the age of consent, and that is where you are. But Prop 20 is related, in my opinion, to Prop 57. What happened in Prop 57 is that they voted to let nonviolent offenders out early, okay? And these are criminals of all types, not just sex offenders, nonviolent out early. And they made it sound like, you were maybe high in a little pot and you went into a 7-Eleven and stole some chewing gum, but now you've been through AA and you're straight. And, we got to let, thousands of these people out early. But what very quickly happened is that Governor Brown at the time, and quite frankly, the Attorney General, who happens to be running for vice president right now, reassured everybody that it would not include sex offenders. And but then what happened is that it didn't say that in writing. What it said is that it's nonviolent criminals. What nobody told you is that it doesn't have anything to do with logic, that there are only 13 violent 13 violent crimes in the penal code for the state of California. So it didn't define what nonviolent was. It just left us all to kind of feel good, okay? Did you know that sex with a child in California is a nonviolent crime? Did you know that? Did you know assault with a police officer is a nonviolent crime? And so what started happening was we were all appalled as people are going, wait a minute, how did they get out early? They had sex with a child, yeah, but they're being discriminated against. You see, what happened was a sex offender, we don't know if it was male or female, in prison filed a lawsuit in Sacramento and said, wait a minute, all these people are getting out early and I'm being discriminated against because I've been charged with a sex offender, as a sex offender. Judge Alan Sumner, I hope you'll remember that name as you vote, Judge Alan Sumner. I don't know if he's up for re-election or not, but you need to know the history of your judges before you vote. He said, I think you're being discriminated against. And so they passed this thing that said that you can't discriminate against sex offenders. Well, Million Kids raised a bunch of money, and we sent over 10,000 names up to Sacramento and said, we are against this. And Governor Brown, along with a lot of other organizations, we fought the fight, and you fought it with us. And Governor Brown said, as long as I'm governor, we're going to make sure that it doesn't include sex offenders, as long as the I can't think of it right now, the detention people, the prison people go along with it. Well, of course, Brown is history. We don't even remember his name anymore. And you have Gavin Newsom up there, and he has a different opinion. And it is nowhere in writing about sex offenses. So Proposition 20 is a sad patchwork to make that better. But it's not a wonderful bill. But it's a step in the right direction from my point of view, because at least it makes an effort to start to reclassify what a nonviolent crime is. Otherwise, it's just going to go on like it is. Now, that doesn't guarantee that a bunch of sex offenders won't get out early. There's as many as 20,000 sex offenders out there that potentially, I'm not going to say they are, potentially many of them could get out early. I worry about the women that testified against them. And they're saying, well, they've gone straight and they've gone, but now we're reclassifying the sex offender so that we can begin to lower that number. Do you start to see a trend here? We are changing the laws where we don't classify what a violent crime is. Then we start letting sex offenders out early. Now we're going to reclassify sex offenders, and we've reclassified the state of consent, and we've now reclassified and redefined what a mandatory reporter is. You do not have to report sex crimes between the ages of 14 and 17 for those victims. So you add all this together. This is not a slippery slope we're on, folks. This is an avalanche. It is a total and, unequivocal avalanche. And we must fight back. You can fight by voting. You can fight by deciding that parenting is a full-time profession and the greatest challenge of your lifetime, but you are going to dedicate yourself to staying educated and really making a difference. You can get a lot of information about all these sex crimes at millionkids.org. I hope that you will share this show. They're archived at millionkids.org. Also, I hope that you will share this show with others so that they will listen next Saturday at 3 o'clock. You can share this show by going to millionkids.org. I also hope that you will find it in your heart to help us fight the good fight. We get up every day and we slug it out. And we are here when we get that call that a kid that's 14 has been picked up in a motel in Pomona, and we facilitate getting law enforcement involved. We will often interact with many of your victim service providers, and we have many to help those kids. But more important, the work of Million Kids is to educate your kids and your grandkids all about the internet, how not to send that naked photo, where that naked photo goes when you hit send, and how to get help when the blackmail begins. And then what sex trafficking is, and that he's not just another boyfriend. When you have a quota, that's called a pimp. We are not going to legalize prostitution in the state of California because pimps aren't going to become Boy Scouts just because we make it legal. Help us fight this fight. Join with us. Support us. Donate to us. Help us do what we can. In the meantime, I hope this has been helpful. I hope that you will take an extra time this week to talk this out as a family. Sit your kids down and say, what do you think? What about this? Is this a slippery slope? You know, let's talk about sex, healthy sex. When we hide in a closet and pretend that they're not old enough to talk about sex, you have those people down the street, the people in Sacramento, starting to make the decision for you. And I'm going to say it one more time. If your kid is too young for the sex talk, they're too young for social media. It's that simple. But talk to your kid and suggest that they be leaders. Do it in a positive way. Don't wag your finger at them. Get their opinion. They're the ones that are having to live in this generation. Let's be leaders. Let's give them the resources they need. You folks have a great week. Put your arms around your kids this week. Hug your spouse. Tell them all you believe in them. And I'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock. Have a great week. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology, coming to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer. Hey, I want to tell you about one of my heroes, Doris Anderson. She's a realtor over at Remax Realty in Upland. Her phone number, 951-733-8899. Doris has pledged $500 from every house she closes. There's a woman who supports an important cause.